But today I want to just do something different. This may be something you haven't heard before. It was new to me, and I found it interesting, and hopefully you also find it interesting as well. As I was saying, I was going through Mr. Duncan's notes on Revelation, and I ran across this idea. It shows how Satan has counterfeit religion in so many places. Some of them are right in your face, such as we know Christmas, Easter, Halloween. But there are others that get people way off track. It's subtle, even to us, if we're not aware of what's going on. We may do some of the things we talk about today without even wondering where these ideas come from or why we even do them. I'm going to start with John 7. You don't need to turn there. I'm just going to read John 7, verse 7. You can throw it up there on the screen if you'd like. John 7:7. The world cannot hate you, Christ says, but it hates me because I testify of it that its works are evil. Some of these things were already occurring when Christ spoke these words. Many in the British Isles were working the works of evil. They, as we will see, got these ideas from ancient Canaan and used their own terms and deities to practice their evil. In fact, I was talking earlier, mentioning this, that these practices probably may even be before the flood even occurred. It takes the place of God's true religion, and God hates these practices. So today we're going to look at 8 witch Sabbats, or Sabbats. It's not W-I-C-H, it's W-I-T-C-H. Witch Sabbats. We're going to see how they are practiced and see if we get caught up in these practices unknowingly. And some of the stuff I'll be reading are just quotes from AI. When you type in the search, it just pops right in there. AI takes over. Witch Sabbats are 8 seasonal festivals known as the Wheel of the Year, marking solstices, equinoxes, and cross-quarter days that honor nature's cycle. They include Samhain, and here's the 8. Samhain, Yule, Y-U-L-E, In Bulk, I'll spell these later, Ostara, Beltane, Litha, Lammas, and Mabon, celebrating themes of fertility, harvest, and rebirth. These holidays are central to Wiccan, which is the practice of witchcraft, and modern pagan traditions, often celebrated on the near specific dates based on solar cycles. As we'll see, these days are mainly from Scottish Gaelic, Germanic, and also Norse festivals. And it's a combination, a conglomeration of a whole bunch of other stuff as well. It's just mushed together. So the first of the festivals we're going to look about is found in October, which I thought was kind of interesting. They start in October. It starts just as fall is closing and winter begins, right in the middle of the two. And of course, the first one is Samhain. I think we understand what Samhain is. If you don't, we'll find that out. It's from October 31st to November 1st. Christians call this All Saints' Day as well, and Halloween, as we're going to find out. It is the Scottish Gaelic name for November. And Samhain is not how it's pronounced. I looked it up, and then I can't even remember how it's really pronounced, but I'm just going to use, it's S-A-M-H-A-I-N. From Christianity.com, because of the popularity of Wicca, witches, and its practices, it is being celebrated more and more. So these things are not just on the back burner, they're getting more popular. During Samhain, they have a desire to talk to dead loved ones. It's your basic necromancy, is basically what it is. God calls this practice witchcraft. In 1 Samuel 28, Saul consults the witch of Endor. Of course, he isn't talking to Samuel, but a demon pretending to be Samuel. We understand that. But today's world thinks that you could actually talk and bring back the dead. In 1 Samuel 15:23, 1 Samuel 15:23 says, for rebellion is like the sin of witchcraft. That's how serious God looks at witchcraft. It's rebellion. Rebellion against God's truth. Instead of going to God, Saul goes and consults a witch and conjures up what he thinks is Samuel. In reality, it's demonism. Continuing with Christianity.com, during Samhain, it is believed that the veil between this world and the world of the dead is the thinnest on this day, and is easier to communicate with the dead. And I like to try to figure out how they came up with that idea, why it's thinner that day, that time of year. This alone could cause many people to become interested in celebrating this day, for there are many people who are desperate to talk with past loved ones. And this particular part of the holiday can prey on those who do not know God. From the church booklet, Holidays or Holy Days, it says, Samhain remained a popular festival among the Celtic people throughout the Christianization of Great Britain. The British Church attempted to divert this interest in pagan customs by adding a Christian celebration to the calendar on the same date as Samhain. The Christian festival, the Feast of All Saints, commemorates the known and unknown saints of Christian religion, just as Samhain had acknowledged and paid tribute to Celtic deities. That's from the Encyclopedia of Religion, page 177, Halloween. And that just brings us to Halloween. They're tied. You can't separate the two. They're tied together. It is celebrated by kids and adults alike. They dress up in some in ghoulish costumes and are actually practicing Samhain without even realizing it. Moreover, Halloween is associated more with being a children's holiday or as a celebration of the autumn season. Samhain is different as it has been more associated with a darker past and a remaining dark present. And yet it's okay to celebrate, as Christians look at it, it's okay to celebrate these days. They see nothing wrong with it. Some Christian churches don't agree with that, but most do. From Noirkala, NOIRKALA.com, people wore costumes and masks to disguise themselves from wandering spirits, or some say to blend in with them so as not to be found out who they are. This practice eventually evolved into modern Halloween disguises. The underlying purpose was both spiritual and practical: safety, appeasement, and honoring forces beyond human control. So another aspect, as we will see, that spreads to all 8 are bonfires. It's all 8 of them. There's always a bonfire involved in this. And there's other things. As we go through this, you'll see the tie-ins on this. So another aspect we'll see is all 8 are bonfires. Bonfires, they say, protect the people from evil spirits. That's why we have the bonfire. And I'll explain if it's okay for us to do a bonfire or not later on. The truth, when you're dead, you're dead. You know nothing, no knowledge in the grave where you are going, Christ or God says. Ecclesiastes 9, verse 10. Ecclesiastes 9, verse 10. You could turn there if you'd like. A couple of scriptures in Ecclesiastes. Whatever your hand finds to do it, do with all your might. For there's no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going. And yet we seem to think that we could call up these spirits and talk to the dead. Psalm 6, verse 5. Psalm 6, verse 5. For in death there is no remembrance of you. In the grave, who will give you thanks? When we're dead, we cannot give God thanks because we are dead. Deuteronomy 18, 11 through 12. Deuteronomy 18, 11 through 12. and this is breaking into the subject here, one who conjures spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. For all who do these things are an abomination to the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord your God drives them out from before you. Christianity.com condemns the practice of Samhain, but it's okay to celebrate Halloween, which is just another name for Samhain. It's a type of being double-minded, as James mentions. Condemn one practice, but put another name on it and be a Christian holiday, and it's fine and dandy to practice these things. Satan likes to deceive. He likes to twist things around to make things look innocent when they're really not innocent at all. That brings us to the second one. Number 2, Yule, Y-U-L-E. We understand what this is. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one. December 21st, it celebrates the winter solstice. It's a Germanic and Norse winter festival. And reading from Britannica.com, the theme is light, fire, and feasting, which is the common thread here. Sacrifices to supernatural beings such as elves. I thought that was kind of interesting. Santa's little helpers are sacrificed to. That's kind of strange little thing. Now we adopted that. This world has adopted it, or to do the dead, or to both. In Europe, they slaughtered cattle during this time because they could not be fed in the winter. It was so cold there that they couldn't feed the cattle there, so they slaughtered them, and there was much meat. Meat was plentiful at that point in time, so they feasted. I wonder why we have the feast day there during Christmas time and New Year's. Eventually, to make a long story short, Christmas just took over the Yuletide season. We've heard that, right? From UCG booklet, again, holidays or holy days. This festival was based on the supposed mythological warfare between the forces of nature, specifically winter, called the ice giant, which signified death, versus the sun god representing life. The winter solstice marked the turning point. Up until then, the ice giant was at its zenith of power. After that, the sun began to prevail. So it's all this sun worship, a battle between darkness and light. And, you know, when we really think about it, the battle between darkness and light has continued since Satan rebelled. There's always been that battle. As Christianity spread to Northern Europe, it met with observance of another pagan festival held in December in honor of the sun. This time was the Yule feast of the Norsemen, which lasted for 12 days. During this time, log fires were burnt to assist the revival of the sun. Shrines and other sacred places were decorated with such greenery as holly, ivy, and bay, and was an occasion for feasting and drinking. And again, we have the feasting and drinking during Christmas time and during the New Year's Day, New Year's celebration. The Yule log. I heard about the Yule log before, but I never understood that it burned so long. It is a large log that is burned throughout the multi-day festival and can last over a month in some homes. That's a big log. Mistletoe is the other one. It's not tied in with Christmas, it's tied in with the Yule season. Of course, Christmas adopted it. Ancient fertility symbol because mistletoe remains green and bears white berries in winter when other plants die. The Celtic Druids viewed it as a sacred symbol of vivacity and fertility. Now, I'm not saying any of us here celebrate use mistletoe or anything like that. I'm just giving you some information where these things come from. Norse mythology. A legend says that goddess Frigg, F-R-I-G-G, declared mistletoe a symbol of love and promised a kiss to anyone passing under it after the plant was used to kill her son Baldur, and then brought him back to life. And again, here we have the same story of Semiramis, Tammuz, and Nimrod. They're throughout all 8 of these. The third one, the third Sabbat, which Sabbat is Imbolc. It's I-M-B-O-L-C, Imbolc. I-M-B-O-L-C. It's from February 1st to the 2nd. And this one marks the midway point between winter solstice and the spring equinox, exactly in the middle. It heralds the change of the season and has to do with Brigid, B-R-I-G-D, daughter of Dagda. I know these weird names, but what do you expect from the Norsemen? And the oldest god in the Celtic pantheon. Who is Dagda? The Dagda, meaning the good god or the green god, is the chief deity of the Irish Tuatha De Danann. Where have we heard that before? Jeremiah, right? The old booklet, United States and Britain in Prophecy. Acting as a father figure warrior, a father figure warrior and druid associated with fertility, agriculture, and wisdom. And I just started thinking about that Tuatha De Danann is possibly a Danite that started this from the tribe of Dan, because Dan leaves their names all the way through history. The Danube River, I'm not going to go through all that. I think we understand some of that stuff. Brigid is the patroness of fertility. It's a type of Diana worship in Greek and in Roman mythology. No doubt taken again from Semiramis, Tammuz, and Nimrod's story. It's the same thing. They just rehash things with different names, different people. Brigid turns darkness into daylight, as they said Diana did. And here's another one that I thought was this is what caught my attention when I was reading the notes from Mr. Duncan. Groundhog Day. When is Groundhog Day? Right around February 1st and 2nd. Usually that's on a Tuesday, right? So usually on a Tuesday. From history.com. February 2nd is also celebrated as Groundhog Day, which began in the United States in 1887. The idea is that a groundhog exiting a burrow can predict whether winter will stay or go based on whether the groundhog sees its shadow. The day was a stunt by a newspaper in Puxatawny, Pennsylvania, that has endured to the end. Till this day it has. Concocted in Pennsylvania Dutch country, Groundhog Day is believed to be an adaptation of the German Candlemas tradition involving a badger. So all these things go back in history. You keep on going back. How far back will it go? I don't know. Candlemas is a Christian holiday celebrated on February 2nd that has aspects in common with Imbolc. Its celebration can be traced to 4th century Greece as a purification holiday and a celebration of the return of the light after winter's darkness. Steeped in this garbage of, false religion. It's amazing. There have been attempts, this is what it says, there have been attempts to portray Groundhog Day as a modern offshoot of Imbolc, but the 2 days are not likely directly related. And I say to that, yeah, right. They are related. It's also a time of spring cleaning, which I thought was kind of interesting. Didn't we just go through that in a sense? We don't do spring cleaning, but we clean out the leaven. Deuteronomy 28, blessings and cursing chapter. If you do what God says, then blessings will occur. In verse 4 of Deuteronomy 28, it says, blessed shall be the produce of your ground and the increase of your herd. It is God who blesses, not some groundhog or badger who sees his shadow or not, whether winter is going to be longer or shorter. God's in control. Why would we put it's all done in fun and games, but some people take it seriously. The blessings we experience today are because of the promise made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Nothing we've done. Of course, as God's people, we are blessed because we follow what God says to do. We have our trials and tests, but the blessings are there. It's Abraham's obedience why we have such blessings here in the United States today. His faith and his obedience. Genesis 1. God created the seasons. He created weather. He created weather patterns that change on its own. And also change at God's pleasure if he decides to do so. He's in control of everything. Turn over to Psalms 135, verse 7. I'm going to read from the New Living Translation. Psalms 135, verse 7. He causes the clouds to rise over the whole earth. He sends lightning with the rain and releases the wind from its storehouses. Again, it is God who's in control. Not some little groundhog that pops his head out and tells us if there's a shadow or not. That brings us to the fourth one, Ostara. Another name for it is Eostre. Ostara is O-S-T-A-R-A, and Eostre is E-O-S-T-R-E, and that's where we get the name Easter. And it's approximately March 21st. Celebrates the spring equinox. And I'm not going to get into too much of the Easter story here. I think we know so much about that already. It says Eostre, sometimes known as Ostara, is the Germanic goddess of dawn and is celebrated to bring fertility. There's that same theme we're going through is fertility, renewal and rebirth. However, her origins in worship are faded in history. But if you look back, as I've said already before, it's not really faded, it's there through Tammuz, Semiramis, and Nimrod. It has been theorized as early as the 8th century by St. Bede that this Teutonic goddess was the foundation for the spring equinox celebrations. And you wonder why we celebrate Easter, why it's so much celebrated. The hare, the rabbit, in Celtic tradition is associated with the moon and is most connected to Ostre, or to Easter. I'll just say Easter instead to make it easier. My eyes bugging me. Whew, shoot. Excuse me a second. I got it. In folklore, it is said that the moon and the hare die each morning and are resurrected each evening. Thus, the hare became the symbol of immortality, fertility, and abundance. What a bunch of garbage. Poppycock, I said. I got it written down, poppycock. Eggs feature in lots of folklore that surrounds the spring equinox. For the Zoroastrian Nowruz, I know I butchered that, still celebrated in Iran as the New Year, eggs were covered with wax and painted with bright colors. So they even do it in Iran, this practice. No secret why this ties in with Easter. It was celebrated for years, and then to get the pagans interested in Christianity, they put a new spin on it and called it Easter. Instead of the resurrected hare, they say it's Christ. Instead of the resurrected Tammuz, it's Christ. We'll read a few scriptures on that here. Deuteronomy 12, verses 29 through 31. Deuteronomy 12, 29 through 31. When the Lord your God cuts off from before you the nations which you go to dispossess, and you displace them and dwell in their land, take heed to yourself that you are not ensnared to follow them after they are destroyed from before you, and that you do not inquire after their gods, saying, how do these nations serve their gods? I will do likewise. And sadly, that traditional Christianity has done that. They are doing likewise. You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way, for every abomination to the Lord which he hates they have done to their gods. Again, God hates this practice, and so should we. We'll discover that later on as we end it. Ezekiel 8, 13 through 16. Ezekiel 8, here God's showing Ezekiel what's really going on behind closed doors. And in verse 13 of Ezekiel 8, and he said to me, turn again, and you will see greater abominations than that they are doing. So he brought me to the door of the north gate of the Lord's house. And to my dismay, women were sitting there weeping for Tammuz, bringing back to life Tammuz, weeping for him. Verse 15, then he said to me, have you seen this, O son of man? Turn again, you will see greater abominations than these. So there's something worse than that? So he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and there at the door of the temple, the Lord at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of the Lord, with their backs against God, turned their back on God, and their faces toward the east. And they were worshiping the sun toward the east. So here we have sun worship. Sunday morning sunrise, basically, the Easter sunrise. This practice goes back far beyond we can believe, I believe. I almost want to say it's before the flood. Some of these things happened before the flood. I wonder where Nimrod got these ideas. Well, they were probably there. We don't know a lot of stuff that went on before the flood, what was really happening there. That brings us to number 5. The 5th witch Sabbath, Beltane, Beltane. May 1st marks the start of summer and pastoral prosperity. It is the midway point between spring equinox and the summer solstice. Things like dancing around the maypole. Anyone knows what a maypole is? Did you dance around it? I probably did when I was a kid. Bonfires, there it is, and fertility. Common theme, bonfires and fertility. The maypole is synonymous with obelisk and Asherah worship. We see these in chapels, churches, and mosques, etc. See them all around. From UnitedStates.com, from UCG.org, the commentary on this. Rather than the law of God, rebellious idolatry, including pagan offering and Asherah worship, is ingrained in the heart, the inner character of the people of Judah, being passed down from one generation to the next. Just like what's going on today with the Wicca. It just passes this stuff on down to the next generation. And they just buy it hook, line, and sinker. Jeremiah 17, 1 through 2. Jeremiah 17, 1 through 2. Excuse me. Allergies. No, it's not the plastic flowers. 1 through 2. Judah's sin is engraved with an iron tool, inscribed with a flint point on the tablets of their hearts and on the horns of their altars. It is so ingrained, you wonder why it's hard for people to come to God's truth. Because everything's ingrained, it's written, it's etched in the heart. And that's hard to erase, even for God. God could do anything he wants, but he doesn't force people. Verse 2, even their children remember their altars and Asherah poles, besides the spreading trees and on the high hills. God looks at this as an abomination. Again, continuing with UCG commentary, this is much like the sin of modern Israelite nations. Christmas trees and other pagan traditions are clung to so strongly as to be considered part of the very heart of the people. Again, passed down through generations. We have a joke every Christmas time. We drive down Wall Road, and there's this one house that has their Christmas tree up in late November, mid to late November, and it's there until mid-January. They don't let it go. There's a few houses like that. Regrettably, the Israelites failed to permanently heed God's warning. Time and again, they let their fascination with the religious practices of those around them get the better of them as they lapse into idolatrous worship. I don't think any of us here would ever have that happen. But when things are going to get rough down the road, that's why we need to stay close to God, so that doesn't happen. We don't fall and lapse and fall into this category. Look what happens at these celebrations. Most people don't see a problem with these practices. They don't see a problem with it. They see them as harmless. Those who don't understand think that we are weak-minded people because we can't accept what they're doing. They think we're the weak-minded people. It's no big deal to put a Christmas tree in the house, even though Jeremiah 10 explicitly calls it an abomination. It doesn't say it word for word, but that's what it is. Jeremiah 10, verse 1 through 4. I'll read that. Jeremiah 10, 1 through 4. Hear the word which the Lord speaks to you, O house of Israel. Thus says the Lord, do not learn the way of the Gentiles. Do not be dismayed at the signs of heaven. So don't get caught up in the spring equinox, the winter solstice, the summer solstice, the fall, and don't get caught up in that stuff. Do not be dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the Gentiles are dismayed at them. For the customs of the peoples are futile. For one cuts a tree from the forest, the work of his hands of the workman, with an axe. They decorate it with silver and gold. They listen with it. They fasten it with nails and hammers, so that it will not topple. They are upright like a palm tree, and they cannot speak. They must be carried, because they cannot go by themselves. Do not be afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, nor can they do any good. It's all make-believe. Satan's got their hand in them. And here are two that you might find interesting. The May Queen, name is Rhiannon. She's the name queen, the May Queen. You may think of this name as familiar or not. Rhiannon is a powerful figure from Welsh mythology, featured in the medieval, I'm going to butcher this one, Mabinogi tales as a strong-willed, magical queen associated with horses, sovereignty, and birds. Often interpreted as a goddess or witch figure, she is known for her intelligence, resilience against false accusations. Again, the great queen is Semiramis. Diana, and sadly portrayed by some churches, the Queen of Heaven, Mary, the mother of Jesus, which of course is ridiculous. Maybe you heard of her song written by Fleetwood Mac, a song to the Queen of Heaven called Rhiannon. I'll just give you the first opening lyrics here. First 4 stanzas. Rings like a bell in the night. Wouldn't you love to love her? Take to the sky like a bird in flight. And who will be her lover? Again, all this is offshoots of Semiramis. Now, I'm not a big Fleetwood Mac fan. Never have been. But now I'm kind of really not. And again, the word Beltane comes from the Canaanite god Baal, B-E-L, or Baal, B-A-A-L. You can spend hours on this and just constantly go back and, like an onion, go through the layers of each of these days and find more information. I could have spent hours on this. I spent hours on it, but I could have spent 100 more hours on this stuff. Brings us to the sixth one, the sixth Sabbath. Litha, Litha. This is approximately June 21st. It's the summer solstice, celebrates the longest day of the year. It shows a gratitude for the earth's fertility. It shows a worship of the creation, as do all of these, if you haven't caught that yet. But this is more so than that. It's a worship of the creation and not the creator. Mythology on this. A traditional story associated with this time is the battle between the Oak King, representing the growing year, and the Holly King, representing the waning year. So you have the summer and the winter kings battling against each other. At Litha, the Holly King defeats the Oak King, ushering in the time of longer nights leading towards winter. So it's not just accepting that days get shorter and the nights will get longer, but they have to have a battle. And every year there's a battle. You know what's going to happen. Things aren't going to change, but they still have these battles going on. Again, bonfires to honor the sun. Litha is the name of the Anglo-Saxon month of June. It is a worship of the sun god, or the sun god. In Egypt, it's Ra. In Greek, it's Apollo, the sun god. There is a tie-in with Pan of the Greek. Pan, like Peter Pan. Peter Pan isn't a nice little boy. He's mischievous. He causes panic. That's why his name is Pan. Pan is the ancient Greek god of the wild shepherds. I'll start that over. Pan is the ancient Greek god of the wild, the shepherds, flocks, rustic music, and fertility, often associated with Arcadia, recognized by his goat legs, horns, and panpipes. He represents untamed nature and primal instinct. He is often linked to panic, derived from the Greek word panikos, as he could induce sudden fear. And this is all adopted by Wicca. They just love this stuff. It's interesting that Satan, at the time of the atonement, is pictured as a goat, isn't it? He is a god of false prophets as well. Turn to 2 Corinthians 11, verses 13 through 15. 2 Corinthians 11, 13 through 15. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself transforms into an angel of light. His name meant light bringer when he was created. But now he has twisted that light bringer name, and that light actually brings darkness. And all this what we're reading is darkness. It's away from God's truth. And no wonder, for Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light. Verse 15, therefore it is no great thing if his ministers also transform themselves into ministers of righteousness, whose end will be according to their work. Pan has his own shepherds that he rules over, his own flock that he rules over. Ezekiel 28, verse 13, speaking of the music part of this Pan. Ezekiel 28, verse 13 says, you are in Eden, speaking of Satan the devil, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering, the sardius, the topaz, the diamond, beryl. Hold on a second. 1, 2, 3. The emerald and the gold. I thought there might be 8 of them, but there's 10 of them. So the sardius, the topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and emerald with gold. The workmanship of your timbrels and pipes was prepared for you in the day you were created. It's no wonder why these things were adopted. All these things are in the Bible. That brings us to the seventh one. I'm going to butcher this, but I wrote it down how it's pronounced. It's spelled Lughnasa-DH. And it's pronounced Lunasha or Lunasa. There's another name for it. It's called Lammas as well. I like that one better because it's easier to pronounce. Lammas. This day is August 1st, or the first full moon of Aquarius. There's that tie-in with the heavens, Aquarius, the age of Aquarius. It is the first of the harvest festival. Marks the beginning of the harvest season and the first of 3 autumn harvests. It honors the Celtic god Lugh, L-U-G-H, and his foster mother, Taitiu, T-A-I-T-T-I-U. I'm just going to call her Tat for now. Tat was a goddess who died of exhaustion after clearing the plains of Ireland for agriculture. It's amazing how they bring these things in to make things up and how things were cleared out, and how they came up with these ideas, I have no clue. This celebrated the first harvest, which was usually wheat coming to ripe, as early as also the early fruits, the summer fruits. So the beginning of the summer fruits. It celebrated that. It is a time of joy about the first fruits. It is interesting that the god of harvest is the green man, also known as John Barleycorn. The first thing I thought of when I heard about the green man, I mentioned to Emily this was the Jolly Green Giant. Some of you, the younger people, don't know who the Jolly Green Giant was, do you? So if you go to the store, you might be able to see the Green Giant corn or peas or whatever, based out of Minnesota. You wonder where that came from. It's steeped in what we're talking about today. It's just steeped in this religion, this Wicca religion, or whatever it is you want to call it. So back in the 60s, back in my days, it was really big. I remember the commercial. He would stand in the valley, big old huge green giant. Ho, 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 that's right. Ho, 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 green giant. We have all these copies of so-called traditions that we just come to accept without thinking where it all stems from. Wicca has adopted these traditions and folklore and have fooled many a people. As I said before, this Wicca Sabbat is also called Lammas. It is the old Anglo-Saxon for loaf mass, L-O, like a loaf of bread, L-O-A-F, loaf mass, where the first loaf of bread is consecrated. Also known as in old Anglo-Saxon chronicles, Feast of First Fruits. Where did that idea come from? If it's true that the Danites came into this area, they brought that religion. The true religion, but it was tainted, twisted. And then they put their own names on it. Leviticus 23, verse 16 through 17. We've read these a few times already the last week or two. Leviticus 23, 16 through 17. Count 50 days, which we're doing now, up to Pentecost. After the seventh Sabbath, then you shall offer a new grain offering to the Lord. You shall bring from your dwelling 2 wave loaves of 2/10 of an ephah. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baked with leaven. They are the first fruits to the Lord. This, no doubt, was transferred to the British Isles and changed to fit their superstitions. In doing so, they lost sight of the one true God. Again, most of the Anglo-Saxons were quite possibly Danites, and whoever followed them from Israel. Some of them followed. Exodus 22, verse 29. Exodus 22, verse 29, I'll just read that. You shall not delay to offer the first of your ripe produce and your juices. The firstborn of your sons you shall give to me. God ordained these statutes and laws because they end up picturing you and I as the firstfruits of God. We are consecrated, set apart as the body of Christ. We are God's firstfruits. One more scripture on this, Micah 7, verse 1. If you turn over to Micah, we're going to read a few scriptures there in Micah. In Micah 7. Woe is me, for I am like those who gather summer fruits, like those who glean vintage grapes. They're looking for the summer fruit. They're looking for those first fruits of the grapes. There is no cluster to eat of the first ripe fruit, which my soul desires. Micah has an interesting story here. There will come a time, sadly, when the summer fruit, the first of the harvest, will not be found. We can't depend on Wicca or these false days that we're going over to protect us and to help us, give us our first fruits. So there's going to come a time when they're going to be hard to find. No ripe summer fruit. It marks a time of destruction and want. Let's read verse 2 through 7. It ties in with the end-time events mentioned in Matthew 24 as well. If we go through this, just listen to what it says. The faithful man has perished from the earth, and there is no one upright among men. Just a few. God calls just a very few people into his church. Many are called, few are chosen. They all lie in wait for blood. Every man hunts his brother with a net, that they may successfully do evil with both hands. Not just one hand, but both hands. The prince asks for gifts. The judge seeks a bribe. And the great man utters his evil desire. So they scheme together. What are we seeing now in today's society? Democrats against the Republicans, Republicans against the Democrats. It's a disgusting, they're scheme. It's a scheme. They scheme together. Verse 4, the best of them is like a briar. The most upright is sharper than a thorn hedge. You ever been caught up in a briar and a thorn hedge before? It's not fun. It hurts. It stings. The day of your watchman and your punishment comes. Now shall be their perplexity. Do not trust in a friend. Do not put your confidence in a companion. Guard the doors of your mouth from her who lies in your bosom. It's like Matthew 24 mentions. For son dishonors father, daughter rises against her mother, daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own household. Therefore I will look to the Lord. I will wait for God of my salvation. My God will hear me. This is what we need to do. Look to our God of salvation. No one else. Nothing else matters. It seems that we're on the precipice of this occurring, the way things are going. That brings us to number 8, Mabon, M-A-B-O-N. This is September 21st, and it's the autumn equinox. It's the second harvest festival. The third one is Samhain, which we covered as the first one. From sacredearthmedicine.org. There are so many websites I had to go through to find some decent stuff to copy down. The name Mabon was introduced into the Will of the Year in 1970s by Aidan Kelly, a co-founder of the New Reformed Orthodox Order of the Golden Dawn, as part of a systematic approach to revive and balance the modern pagan Wheel of the Year. He chose the name from Welsh mythology, Mabon or Modron, which means son of the mother. Who's the son of the mother that mankind looks to. Reflecting themes of release, liberation, and balance. You know, the belief is that Christ was born, and I just came to me, I'm just kind of going off track here, but was born in sometime in September, we believe that's when it was. So the son of the mother, Jesus Christ, was born that's kind of interesting that that's written like that, like it is. So reflecting things of release, liberation, and balance, this newer designation connects the Sabbat to the mythological tale of Mabon, a divine youth whose story is about liberation and triumph over darkness. Did not Christ triumph over darkness? Did he not come to liberate us? It's just a copy. A disgusting copy. Again, there's nothing new under the sun. This is all done millennia ago. This newer designation connects the Sabbat to the mythological tale of Mabon, a divine youth whose story is about liberation and triumph over darkness, mirroring the equinoxes and balance of light and shadow. Well, that's where they lost it. Goes right back to the Wicca, to witchcraft. From Sabbats and Sabbats.com, historically, both Christians and pagans have their own forms of some kind of fall ritual observance. We have one, but it's the true one, right? Many southern churches where I live celebrate something called Rally Day. Have anyone heard of Rally Day? I think I've heard that before. It is usually held the first or second weekend after Labor Day and is a time when most churches kick their activities into full gear. Sunday school resumes after a summer break and attendance goes up in worship because vacation time is over. Many churches have a potluck lunch on Rally Day, or a special time for celebrating and catching up with friends. It is the antiseptic version of Oktoberfest. I'm going to stop here for a second. Is it okay to go to Leavenworth and enjoy Oktoberfest? You go there to taste some beers? I think it's fine. You go there and get caught up in the celebration of what are pictures? That's not okay. Oktoberfest is primarily a secular Bavarian folk festival, but it shares roots with pagan autumn harvest celebrations. While not a Wiccan holiday itself, it aligns closely with the timing of Mabon. Interesting how that just happens to be the case. The autumnal equinox. In Samhain, historically, Oktoberfest beer laws were designed to eliminate traditional herbs used in pagan brewing. So Oktoberfest was designed to help in purifying the brew from the herbs that possibly could have caused hallucinations or problems, to make the beer stronger. They wanted to clarify that. That's why Oktoberfest was created, but it's been adopted to something else. Should we get caught up in that? Of course not. But like with all things, pagans got their hands on it, and it's ruined. Continuing on, in its antiseptic version of Oktoberfest that has been filtered through our American Puritan heritage. It also has its roots in our pagan part as reflected in its familiar hymn of the season. I believe we used to sing this song, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not going to sing it. Just a couple of stanzas here. Come, you thankful people. You used to sing that, right? Yeah. Come, raise the song of harvest home. All is safely gathered in, ere the winter storm begin. God our Maker doth provide for our wants to be supplied. Come to God's own temple. Come, raise the song of harvest home. Harvest home, which is also called the ingathering, is a traditional English harvest festival that has been celebrated for thousands of years. Interesting. Thousands of years? Like Oktoberfest, it is a time of singing, dancing, and decorating the town with symbols of the harvest. not my Wiccan friends, okay, let's get that clarified. I'm quoting here, my Wiccan friends call this festival Mabon, which is named after the Welsh god Mabon, the son of the earth, mother goddess. It is also a preparing for the winter, which is right around the corner. Exodus 34, verse 22. Exodus 34, verse 22. And you shall observe the feast of weeks, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end, the Feast of Tabernacles. See, we do it because God tells us to do it. It's not steeped in paganism. It's steeped in God's truth. Exodus 23, verse 16. Exodus 23, verse 16. In the feast of harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering at the end of the year, when you have gathered in the fruit of your labors from the field. So there you have 8 witch Sabbaths. Why did I do this? So I was desperately looking for a message, believe me. That was one of the reasons. I found it, but I kind of went into it. Do we know why we do the things we do and why they are done at all? Most of the things that go on in this world are Satan the devil, and we may not even know it. Is it okay to have a bonfire? Yes, if you're doing it for light and warmth. Not dancing around it and not using it for false worship of the sun. Pretty simple. Should we celebrate summer and the spring? No. Not unless God tells us to. He created the seasons, and he uses them for lessons for us. We celebrate the days of those seasons he tells us to. The spring holy days, Pentecost, and the fall holy days. However, I am glad when spring rolls around and summer comes around and it's warmer and it's nicer out. Days are a little longer. There's less rain. I don't celebrate that. It would be celebrating of creation and not the Creator. Should we dance around the maypole? Of course not. It's a phallic fertility symbol. It's steeped in paganism. I'm not saying any of us here have done this. Maybe when we were younger, little kids ran around a maypole, or was it mulberry bush? That's another one. That's a whole dark thing right there, I think. Just be aware of what Satan has out there that trips us up. That's all I'm doing this for just be aware of what's out there. It's amazing what Satan does and how he hides things right in front of you. Maybe next time you hear Rhiannon by Fleetwood Mac, you might think twice about singing along. It's a nice little song. I've been singing it. I catch myself singing just the first couple of tunes, and I go, stop it. Because I'm not really a Fleetwood Mac song or person. I started my message by reading John 7:7. The world cannot hate you, but it hates me because I testify of it that its works are evil. The works are evil. God hates evil, and he expects us to hate evil and the works of evil too. A few more scriptures here. Exodus 20, verse 4 through 5. I'll kind of go through these a little quicker. Exodus 20, 4 through 5. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, which they do. It's very clear that they do. Or that is the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath the earth. You shall not bow down to them nor serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me. God means business when it comes to this. Psalms 5, verse 5, I'll just read that. Psalms 5:5, David speaking of God, you hate all workers of iniquity. We too should hate all workers of iniquity. We should hate the evil in this world, as God does. Not accept it. Psalms 101, verse 3. Psalms 101, verse 3. I will set nothing wicked before my eyes. Don't get caught up in this stuff. I hate the work of those who fall away. It shall not cling to me. Amos 5:21. Two more scriptures. Amos 5, verse 21. I despise your feast days, and I do not savor your sacred assemblies. God means business when it comes to this. He despises it. God hates these false days that take the focus off him. In fact, he despises them. Do we? Do we just accept them because they do no harm? God says that we are to hate these days. Hopefully you do, and now that some of you, these things have been opened to your eyes, my eyes as well, you will come to hate them as God does. And not look at his innocent stuff, innocent little days. I'm going to leave with this scripture, Job 8:22. Job 8, verse 22. Those who hate you will be clothed with shame, and the dwelling place of the wicked will come to nothing. Eventually, all things will be made clear. When Christ returns to this earth, there will be no doubt who God is. That doesn't mean that people will accept who he is. There'll be no doubt who God is. And as it says in Job right here, and the dwelling place of the wicked will come to nothing. We look forward to that day.